Well, I've been interested in Brexit for the last 20 or so years. Ever since I voted like an idiot to remain in the common market in 1975, I've gradually been sort of led unwillingly through the European Economic Community, the European Community, and finally I find myself in the European Union. That's not what I voted for, and I've been cheated. I got lied to by politicians. So about 20 years ago, I started delving into it really deeply, and I've just found how treacherous this organisation is. So-called Sir Edward Heath wanted Britain in the EU and persuaded Parliament and the rest of us to follow him into this organisation. But part of the deal was that we had to sacrifice some of our natural resources, which was fishing grounds. It started then, and it's been nibbling away at us ever since. Post-war, Europe was in a mess, and everybody was recovering from the biggest conflict in history. 55 million people died, people were displaced, they were all over the place. There was the Cold War going on as well. In the 60s and 70s, there were strikes. The unions had an awful lot of power, more power than they deserved, and it was very bad for our own democracy. In fact, our own democracy was actually losing out. Didn't matter which government was in power, you only had to get wildcat strikes, and it was bringing the nation down. Dock strikes, train strikes, bus strikes, this strike, that strike, the next strike. It was ridiculous. It culminated in 1977, and we were in the common market then, with the winter of discontent. I got married in that year and spent part of my honeymoon in darkness in the evenings because there was any power. The situation has changed. 43 years is a long, long time. If you notice, the common market morphed through European Economic Community to European Community to European Union. Now, that's not what we voted for back in 1975. It's history repeating itself, isn't it? I mean, we get complacent, we get used to a nice, cosy, warm thing. It's this EU creep from common market to EU, this like mission creep, and then lots and lots and lots of regulations to control us. And then after a while, we'll rebel. Like, if you like, the referendum is our way of rebelling. I don't think it's over if the referendum goes the wrong way and we stay in. It won't stop. The Conservatives will still be split. UKIP will still be around and probably bigger than ever before. If you don't like UKIP, if you want to kill UKIP off, simply vote to come out of the EU. They'll evaporate overnight, and life will get back to normal. If you define normal, history repeats itself in cycles. We get complacent. We get compressed by overbearing rulers, of which the EU is an overbearing ruler. We explode in revolution, sometimes bloody, sometimes not, and I hope this is not. And then we start all over again. Go back to your school days in the playground. It took a while, but the little weed in the playground, including me, would take it so long and then explode in violence and thump the bully. Sooner or later, the bully got flattened, and the world reset itself. We started all over again. In 1940, Hitler was poised on the edge of Europe, waiting to pour over the border into Britain. Normally a very pacifist kind of nation. Between the wars, it had sort of resisted rearming, resisted the concept of war, or even the possibility of it. But sooner or later, faced with the need to rearm and the threat of Hitler and his vicious, unspeakably vicious regime, Britain stood up and said, "No, you will not. We will fight you. We will fight you on the beaches. We'll fight you in the fields. We'll fight you everywhere. And even if you win, we'll still fight you." This isn't just a British thing. This is a human thing. And if we stay in the EU, and the EU still builds on this cycle of more and more regulations, and you can't do this, and you can't do that, and you've got to do it this way, and you've got to do it that way. Sooner or later, people will rebel. Not just necessarily the British. It'll be the whole of Europe. I mean, starting probably with the Greeks, with the situation that they're in. The one thing that you will notice about this New World Order is that the weapons of the future, the weapons of now, are not military hardware, it's debt. The banks help people into debt, and they've got you. You know, they control you. You know, you will do as you are told, you will do as we say, or we'll call the debt in. You know, make you homeless, make you hungry. As a smaller community, we can grow most of our own food, a lot of our own food, not all of it, granted. We can have our own currency, we can make our own goods, and we can feed ourselves, clothe ourselves, and even trade with the outside world. We can start all over again as a small group of people. As people, we are autonomous, but the only thing that can really oppress us is great big armies on the street. And nowhere in Europe is there anything like a great big army that can do that. You look at wives that have been beaten by their husbands, they will stay in that abusive relationship, even if it threatens to kill them, because it's all they know. They feel they don't know the alternative, but they're willing to stay in an abusive relationship for fear of the unknown. Sooner or later, it will get so bad that the bully or the beaten wife or the population that's being oppressed by the EU will rise up and hit back, and it will suddenly explode usually in a flash of violence. This seems to be the human way. You know, somebody will bully me and bully me and bully me, and then suddenly I'll lash out, and I'll do it suddenly and take it by surprise, and down they go. And it will be, oh my God, you know, he's fought back. Now I'm on top, and I'm not going to take any more crap from the bully. It's the same whether it's a beaten wife, a bullied school kid, or a population being oppressed by the EU. It's the same scenario repeated on different levels, on different scales. Isn't it a paradox that all the politicians you see in politics now, say the leaders like David Cameron, Jeremy Corbyn, all campaigning so hard to stay in the EU, have all been seen on camera in their younger days, and not so very long ago, all saying the EU is an undemocratic organisation and we must leave it. But why, before they got to power, they were all campaigning not to go in, and now they're in power, they're campaigning to stay in? A lot of the people on the streets, a lot of people in Totnes are very pro-EU, and it's the ideological argument. You know, we're all people together, one people in Europe. You know, isn't this lovely and warm and cosy and friendly? But what is actually pulling the strings of the EU is large transnational corporations. Large corporations and governments like to deal with big units. The fact that Britain is, as Napoleon put it, a nation of shopkeepers, where largely, well, there's a great number of one-man shows, one-man businesses. A lot of small businesses, small businessmen, you know, small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs. The EU doesn't like dealing with those, but they like dealing with the likes of Ford or Renault or British Telecom or EDF, large businesses. The benefits to people walking up and down the street, the likes of you and me, come secondary. Everybody I speak to who's an immigrant, Polish people, Hungarians, whatever, they're coming here for the opportunities because we're a welcoming, friendly, dynamic, hard-working nation, a prosperous country. They want to come here for all the right reasons, nothing wrong with that. But if all the immigrants were English, it would still be too many people coming into the country. We're bursting at the seams. We've got a housing crisis because we've got to house a lot of people. Suddenly, there was a culture shock as well. Because people coming to the country don't tend to mix that well. They come and they settle in little bundles, in bunches, and carry on their same cultures that they've come from. Integration is a problem. I've got a friend whose daughter worked in a school in Bristol, and the biggest problem was So you had a class full of students with their first language being 14 different languages. Point is, no matter where you come from, immigrant or otherwise, if you have voting rights in this country, we should be making up our mind about the benefits or otherwise of leaving the European Union. As far as I'm concerned, it's just as important for immigrants to leave the EU as it is for us.